welcome back. We're diving into a topic that I think a lot of us are thinking about these days. Gratitude and growth, and especially when things get tough.
Yeah.
We've got this book called Gratitude and Growth, and seems like it speaks to a lot of the stuff that men are facing these days.
It's interesting you say that because one of the first things that the book does is challenge that whole, man up and push through mentality. A lot of us were raised it.
And instead of just enduring hardship, this book argues that we can actually use it as like a catalyst for growth.
Yeah.
Almost like a gem needing friction to be polished, as the book puts it.
Yeah, and it uses a really compelling story about a guy named Jasper who lost his job during a recession. And you'd think that that would be a recipe for despair, but instead of falling apart, he starts focusing on the things he does have.
Right.
His family, the simple pleasures of gardening.
Wait, there's more to this, right? It wasn't just about him finding solace in gardening.
Exactly. This shift in perspective, this newfound appreciation for the simple things, actually leads him to start his own successful business.
Wow.
The book argues that he was able to tap into a wellspring of resilience and creativity because of the adversity he faced.
It's almost like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
Forced him to reevaluate what truly matters and discover a whole new path.
Right.
I wonder if any of our listeners have had similar experiences where something difficult ended up leading to unexpected growth.
It's a thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is that this whole idea of finding strength through adversity isn't just some feel-good philosophy.
Yeah.
There's actual scientific evidence to support it.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Well, there's this concept called post-traumatic growth,
Okay.
where research shows that people who go through challenging experiences often come out the other side, more resilient with a greater appreciation for life and even stronger relationships. It's almost like our brains are wired to find meaning and growth even in the midst of suffering.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So hardship can lead to growth.
Yeah.
But what about happiness?
Yeah.
That's got to be a key part of this whole gratitude thing, right?
Absolutely. And the book dives right into the science behind it,
Right.
talking about how gratitude can actually impact our brain chemistry.
Okay.
For example, did you know that practicing gratitude
Yeah.
can increase the production of dopamine and serotonin?
Wait, so those are the neurotransmitters linked to pleasure and mood, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment. There's a real physiological effect happening.
Right.
The book even uses this example of a guy named John, a high-powered Wall Street executive.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one. He ends up ditching his fancy job and moving into a yurt in the desert.
Everyone thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
But the book digs a bit deeper. It turns out that behind that seemingly impulsive decision was a yearning for a simpler life, a desire to break free from the constant pressure
Right.
and find contentment in the present moment.
So it's like he was chasing external success, thinking that would bring him happiness.
Right.
But it was only when he simplified his life and focused on what truly mattered to him that he actually found peace.
Exactly. And the book challenges us to consider, what are we chasing?
Yeah.
Is it external validation, material possession, or is it something deeper, something more aligned with our core values?
That's a really powerful question. It's making me think about my own priorities and what truly brings me joy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got adversity leading to growth and gratitude boosting happiness. But where does masculinity fit into all of this? Is there a place for traditional male values in this whole gratitude journey?
That's where things get really interesting. The book actually argues that traditional masculine values like resilience, discipline, and integrity can actually help us practice gratitude even when things are tough.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so?
Well, it uses this example of George Washington, refusing a third term as president.
Okay.
He could have easily held on to power.
Right.
But he chose to step down, valuing fresh perspectives and humility over personal gain.
Right. Didn't he say something like, I'd rather be in my coffin than have my reputation besmirched?
I think that's pretty close.
It's like he understood that true leadership meant putting the greater good above his own ego, which is a pretty powerful expression of gratitude.
Exactly. And the book also contrasts two modern figures, Tim Tebow and Tom Brady.
Okay, two incredibly successful, but with very different approaches to, pretty much everything.
Right. Tebow is known for his open faith, his compassion, his willingness to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Brady, on the other hand, is all about that relentless work ethic, that stoic pursuit of excellence.
So two very different expressions of masculinity, but the book argues that both can be pathways to gratitude.
Yeah.
Tebow finds it through his connection to a higher power, his service to others, while Brady finds it through the challenge, the constant striving to improve.
It's like they're both tapping into different aspects of what it means to be a man and using those strengths to cultivate gratitude in your own unique ways.
That's really cool. It begs the question, what are the masculine traits you value most? And how can those same traits help you find gratitude in your daily life?
Welcome back to our deep dive into gratitude and growth. In the last part, we were talking about how even traditional masculine values
Yeah.
can help us cultivate gratitude. It really challenged some of my preconceived notions.
I know, right? It's like this book is giving us a whole new lens
Yeah.
through which to view masculinity.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been wondering about is the role of competition. I mean,
Right.
isn't that a core part of how men are wired?
It's a great question. And the book definitely doesn't shy away from it. In
Yeah.
fact, there's a whole chapter dedicated to what it calls the art of competition.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is that it encourages setting goals and striving to improve, but the competition is against your own past self,
Right.
not others.
So it's not about trying to outdo everyone else,
Right.
but rather focusing on personal growth and constantly raising your own bar.
Exactly. This way, we're less likely to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, which can lead to envy and resentment.
Right.
Those real happiness killers.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like, instead of feeling threatened by someone else's success,
Yeah.
we can see it as inspiration to push ourselves further.
Right. And the book highlights some really inspiring examples
Okay.
of people who have mastered this approach. Oprah Winfrey, for instance, is someone who has achieved incredible success.
Right.
But she constantly emphasizes the importance of learning and growing, not to be better than anyone else, but to be the best version of herself.
I love that. It's like she's competing against her own potential,
Right.
always striving to reach new heights.
Yeah.
And she's also incredibly open about the role of mentorship in her journey.
Absolutely. The book actually dives into this idea of seeking guidance and support from others as not just a sign of humility, but a powerful tool for growth.
Okay.
It even talks about Serena Williams, another powerhouse in her field,
Right.
and how she's always credited her coaches and mentors for helping her reach her full potential.
So it's not about trying to go it alone or proving that you can do everything yourself,
Yeah.
but recognizing that we can all benefit from having people in our corner who can offer guidance and support.
Exact. And the book even goes a step further, exploring this fascinating concept called shokushu,
Oh, wow.
which is a Japanese term that essentially means learning from those below you.
Whoa, that's really interesting. I've never heard that before. So it's like, instead of assuming we have all the answers, we can learn from anyone regardless of their age,
Yeah.
status, or experience level.
Exactly. It's about cultivating humility and recognizing that everyone has unique perspectives and insights to offer.
Yeah.
And the book argues that this approach can actually make us better mentors, coaches, and leaders.
Right.
Because it creates a more collaborative and dynamic environment where everyone feels valued.
I love that. It's like this book is encouraging us to shift our focus from outward comparison to inward growth and to be open to learning from all sorts of unexpected sources.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. And speaking of unexpected sources of wisdom, the book also delves into this concept called the pleasures of privation.
Okay, now that sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Pleasure from privation? How does that work?
Well, it's this idea that hardship, even deprivation, can actually make us more joyful.
Okay, so less is more when it comes to happiness. I'm not sure I'm following.
It's not quite that simple, but
Yeah.
the book argues that when we experience scarcity, it can make us appreciate the simple things more. Think about it after you've been really sick. Even just being able to breathe easily feels amazing.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's like when you're deprived of something, you suddenly become much more aware of its value.
Exactly. The book uses the example of a guy named Dave,
Oh.
who lost his job during a tough economic time. He was forced to simplify his life,
Oh, yeah.
cut back on luxury.
Sounds more like a recipe for stress than joy.
Right. But here's the twist. He discovers a passion for astronomy. He starts spending his nights stargazing,
Wow.
learning about constellations, and finds a level of peace and joy he'd never experienced before.
That's incredible.
It's like this forced simplicity
Yeah.
allowed him to connect with something deeper, something more meaningful than just material possession.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's not that hardship itself is pleasurable,
Yeah.
but that it can sometimes push us towards experiences and perspectives that bring us profound joy.
Precisely. And the book connects this to the idea of the hedonic treadmill,
Oh, yeah.
which I'm sure you've heard of.
Yeah.
That constant chasing of the next thing,
Right.
thinking that that will finally make us happy.
Right? Like getting a raise or buying a new car and feeling a fleeting sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Only to find ourselves wanting more, always striving for that next hit of dopamine.
Exactly. But the book argues that the pleasures of privation are about breaking free from that treadmill.
Right.
It's about finding contentment in the present moment, appreciating what we have, even when it's not much.
Right.
It's about recognizing that true happiness often comes from within rather than from external things.
Love that. It's like instead of always looking for what we lack, we can shift our focus to what we already have and find gratitude in that.
Absolutely. And this actually ties into another big idea in the book,
Okay.
the importance of learning new skills.
Okay, now how does that connect to gratitude?
Well, the book argues that when we challenge ourselves to learn new things, it triggers the release of dopamine, that feel-good chemical.
Oh, okay.
So by taking on a new hobby, learning a new language, whatever it may be, we're not only expanding our horizons, but also giving ourselves a natural happiness boost.
So growth itself can be a source of joy and satisfaction,
Right.
independent of any external rewards.
Exactly. And the book goes on to explore how this pursuit of knowledge and skill development can actually be a deeply fulfilling and meaningful aspect of a man's life.
Right.
It even talks about how this drive to learn and master new things is woven into the fabric of masculinity throughout history.
That's really interesting. So it's like this innate drive to challenge ourselves
Yeah.
and push our limits is actually something to be celebrated and cultivated.
Yeah.
But how does this tie back into gratitude?
Well, the book argues that the more we learn and grow, the more we realize how much there is to learn and grow.
Right.
It cultivates a sense of humility and appreciation for the vastness of knowledge and experience.
It's like the more we know, the more we realize we don't know.
Right.
And that realization can actually be incredibly humbling and inspiring.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the pleasures of privation, the joys of learning, but something that keeps coming up for me is this tension between personal growth and the need to connect with others.
Yeah.
Does the book address that at all?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And in a really profound way. In fact, it dedicates a whole chapter to exploring the connection between gratitude and the importance of helping others.
Okay, this is something I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
How does helping others tie into this whole gratitude and growth journey?
Well, the book argues that when we focus on serving others,
Yeah,
it shifts our perspective away from our own problems
right.
and helps us to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It also allows us to tap into a deeper sense of purpose and meaning.
So it's like by getting outside of our own heads and focusing on the needs of others, we actually gain a greater appreciation for our own lives
Yeah.
and for the interconnectedness of humanity.
Exactly. And the book shares some really inspiring stories about men who found joy and fulfillment through acts of service. For example, there's this retired firefighter who finds purpose in volunteering at an animal shelter.
Yeah.
And another guy who discovers a new appreciation for his own life by helping out at a local food bank.
It's like by giving to others, we end up receiving so much in return.
Right. And the book even suggests that this willingness to serve and contribute to something larger than ourselves
Yeah.
is a deeply ingrained aspect of masculinity.
Right.
It's about using our strength and resilience to make a positive impact on the world around us.
That's a really empowering message. It's
Wow.
like this book is encouraging us to redefine what it means to be a man, not just in terms of individual achievement,
Yeah.
but also in terms of our contributions to the community and to the well-being of others.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And speaking of redefining things, the book also touches on this fascinating concept called masculine minimalism.
Okay, now that's something I'm really interested in. What's that all about?
It's essentially the idea that true wealth and happiness come not from material possessions, but from experiences, relationships, personal growth, all the things we've been talking about.
So it's about simplifying our lives, getting rid of the clutter,
Yeah.
and focusing on what truly matters.
Exactly. The book encourages readers to declutter their lives, get rid of things they don't need, and invest their time and energy in things that bring them joy, things that align with their values.
That sounds a lot like what we were talking about with the pleasures of privation.
Right.
Realizing that sometimes less is more, and that true contentment often comes from simplifying and appreciating what we already have.
It's definitely connected. It's all about shifting our focus away from that endless pursuit of more stuff
Yeah.
and finding contentment in the present moment.
This is really resonating with me. It's like this book is giving us permission to let go of all the things that society tells us we should be striving for and to define success on our own terms.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering,
What's on your mind?
well, throughout this entire book, there's been this underlying theme of gratitude, but it's not just about feeling thankful for what we have. It's almost like a guiding principle for living a more fulfilling life.
That's a really insightful observation. I think you're right. It's like the book is suggesting that gratitude isn't just an emotion, it's
Yeah.
a way of being, a lens through which to view the world.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this book so powerful. It's
Yeah.
not just offering tips and tricks.
Yeah.
It's presenting a whole new paradigm for how to approach life as a man in today's world.
It's a paradigm shift that seems to be resonating with a lot of people.
For sure. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what this book has to offer.
There's definitely a lot more to unpack, and thankfully we have one more part of this deep dive
Yeah.
to do just that.
I can't wait. Until then, keep those minds open and those gratitude muscles flexed.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon to explore even more insights from gratitude and growth. Welcome back to our deep dive into gratitude and growth. In the last 2 parts, we've explored some pretty profound ideas about using adversity as fuel for growth and finding contentment in simplicity, and even redefining what it means to be a man in today's world.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And in this final part, I think we're going to delve even deeper into the practical application of these ideas and how we can actually integrate them into our daily lives.
I'm ready for some actionable takeaways. So where do we start? What are some concrete steps we can take to cultivate more gratitude and foster growth in a meaningful way?
Well, one thing the book emphasizes is the importance of mindfulness, being present in the moment, and really appreciating the small things that often go unnoticed.
Okay, I've heard a lot about mindfulness, but I'm still not entirely sure what it means in practice. Is it like meditation? Or just trying to be more aware of my surroundings?
It's definitely related to meditation, but it's more about cultivating a certain quality of attention throughout your day. The book gives this great example. Imagine you're eating a piece of fruit. Instead of just mindlessly chomping away while you're scrolling through your phone, you really take the time to savor each bite. You notice the texture, the flavor, the aroma.
Oh, I see what you mean. It's about engaging all of your senses and really being present in the experience, even if it's something as simple as eating a piece of fruit.
Exact. And the book argues that this practice of mindfulness can help us to cultivate a deeper sense of gratitude for the simple pleasures in life. It's about shifting our focus away from what we lack and appreciating what we already have.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we're training our brains to notice and appreciate the good stuff instead of always dwelling on the negative. But how do we actually do that? Are there specific techniques we can use to cultivate mindfulness?
The book actually offers a variety of practical tips and exercises. One suggestion is to start a gratitude journal where you write down a few things you're grateful for each day. It could be anything from a beautiful sunset to a meaningful conversation with a loved one.
Okay, that sounds simple enough. But isn't there a risk of it becoming just another chore on our to-do list? How do we make sure it stays authentic and meaningful?
That's a great point. The key is to approach it with intention and to really connect with the emotions behind the word. It's not just about listing things off. It's about taking a moment to really reflect on why you're grateful for those things and how they enrich your life.
It's almost like a form of self-reflection, a way to connect with our deeper values and priorities.
Exactly. And the book even suggests that this practice of gratitude journaling can help us to rewire our brains to focus on the positive, which can have a ripple effect on our overall well-being.
That's pretty amazing. But what about those times when we're really struggling, when it feels like everything is going wrong? How can we find gratitude in the midst of hardship?
That's a really important question, and the book doesn't shy away from addressing it. It acknowledges that life is full of challenges and that there will be times when it feels difficult to find anything to be grateful for.
So what does it suggest we do in those moments?
Well, one suggestion is to focus on the things that are still within our control, even if it's something as simple as our attitude or our perspective. The book uses the example of Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust.
That's a powerful example. I can't even imagine the strength and resilience it must have taken to find any sliver of hope in such dire circumstances.
Right. But Frankl's story highlights the power of choosing our response, even in the face of unimaginable suffering. He found meaning and purpose in helping others and in focusing on the things he could still control, like his thoughts and his actions.
So it's about finding agency even in the most challenging situations and recognizing that we always have a choice in how we respond to adversity.
Exactly. And the book even suggests that this ability to find meaning and purpose in the midst of suffering can be a source of profound gratitude. It's like we're recognizing the strength and resilience within ourselves and appreciating our own capacity to overcome challenges.
That's really inspiring. Like, gratitude isn't just about the good times. It's about recognizing the lessons and the growth that come from even the most difficult experiences.
Precisely. And this brings us to another important aspect of the book, the idea of embracing imperfection and seeing failure as an opportunity for learning and growth.
Okay, that's something I definitely need to work on. I tend to be pretty hard on myself when I make mistakes.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
But the book challenges us to reframe our perspective on failure and see it as an essential part of the growth process. It even suggests that we should be grateful for our mistakes because they offer valuable lessons and opportunities to learn and improve.
So it's not about avoiding failure, but about learning from it and using it to fuel our growth.
Exact. The book even uses the analogy of a muscle. When we lift weights, we're actually tearing muscle fiber. But it's that process of tearing and rebuilding that makes us stronger.
Oh, I like that analogy. It's like our mistakes are like those tiny tears in our muscle. They might hurt in the moment, but they're ultimately what allow us to grow and become more resilient.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. And the book encourages us to apply the same mindset to all areas of our lives, from our personal relationships to our professional pursuits.
So it's about embracing the whole journey, the ups and downs, the successes and the setbacks, and finding gratitude for all of it.
Exact. And ultimately, the book suggests that this practice of gratitude can lead to a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us.
It's like we're not just individuals striving for personal happiness. We're part of something bigger, something more interconnected.
Precisely. And by cultivating gratitude within ourselves, we can contribute to creating a more grateful and compassionate world.
It's a beautiful vision. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, and I feel like I've gained so many valuable insights from this deep dive into gratitude and growth.
I'm so glad to hear that. And if you're looking to continue this journey of gratitude and growth, I highly recommend checking out the book for yourself.
Yes, definitely. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, and Google Play Books, so you can dive right in and start putting these principles into practice.
It's been an honor exploring these ideas with you and with all of our listeners.
Likewise. And as always, we encourage you to keep diving deep and discovering new knowledge. Thanks for joining us on this journey of gratitude and growth.